And welcome back, everybody, to another podcast episode. Thanks for joining in here. If you're listening to me on the Spotify, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google, or if you're watching this on YouTube, nice to have you here. So in this podcast episode, we're going to talk about how do you detail off-site. And when I say off-site, I mean not at a home location, because 9 out of 10 times when you're at a home location, it's pretty straightforward. You have the driveway. You might have like a gated community and you have to have the code or something. But for the most part, a home location, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. Things start to change and can sometimes get hectic, uncomfortable, or just not ideal when you're not at a home location. So not plenty of times, a lot of times we're at office locations, work locations, or apartment locations or condos and such. So I'll kind of take you through the process, at least what I've kind of learned and what we do and what we look for, what we look ahead. That's what we assume that's going to happen before we even get there, because it's good to understand these things. That way you can kind of adjust accordingly with your day. So as you get more customers, you'll better understand what you need to know to get the job done. And what I mean by that is, like, if someone tells us like, hey, we're at an apartment, we already know exactly what to ask. Or if someone says, hey, we're at a condo, we already have a separate set of questions that we need to ask, just because every location is going to have its nuances, right? So it's not like it's a perfect system by any means, but you do have these generalizations of what you need to ask or what you might encounter depending on where the customer lives. And this is only going to happen once you get more customers and you're like, man, every time I go to an apartment complex, XYZ happens. So let me start asking that beforehand. Or, hey, yeah, I go to, commercial locations a lot and XYZ happens. So let me ask these questions. So as you get more customers and you go to more, to different locations, you'll have a better understanding of what exactly you need to get the job done. And that can also mean, like, if you don't have a generator or water tank or pressure washer, like, you adjust accordingly based on where you're going to go. And the more customers you get, the better you'll get at really knowing what you need in advance. And I will say, don't just assume that you're going to, of course, this is for mobile detailers. Don't assume you're always going to a home location, right? Like, again, it's the most ideal when you go to a home location, but don't think that you are by default always going to a home location. This is specifically important for those that don't have a generator or a pressure washer or anything like that, to where you need the customer's outlet for power and water. So always ask, hey, and it's just a simple question. You don't need to overcomplicate it. It's literally just asking, hey, is this a work? Is this a apartment or home location? That is literally it. That's all you need to know. And from there, you go into your questions of, like, if that's the scenario that fits you. Then you'll say, okay, if it's a home location, if you need the outlet and water, then you'll just say, hey, all I need now is when I get there, all I need is the outlet and water spigot. Is that accessible, or do you have one nearby? Or a very basic question that you need to ask. It's not that, like, I never put too much thought into it. I've never had a problem asking if they have power or water readily available, because they usually do if it's at a home location. If it's not, which is why you don't want to assume it's not, that's what you want to assume it's not at a home location, is because then what do you do when it's an apartment or condo or office location and you need power? You didn't ask if it's a home location or not, or if it's somewhere else, and you show up and you're like, oh, I don't have a generator. I don't have a water hose. What do I do now? So that's what you don't want to do, which is why you don't want to assume it's always at a home location. Now, for me, when I didn't have when I was primarily using the customer's power or water, I never really ran into an issue of not being able to access their power or water at their home location, right? So yes, if you're at a home location, it's way easier, but that doesn't necessarily mean like you'll always have power and water. Sometimes their water spigot was like all kinked up, torn. Sometimes like the outlet was like pretty far away. So you will have your nuances of where maybe you need like an extra 25, 50 feet of hose. Maybe you need like a longer extension. Maybe the plug doesn't work. I've run into that quite a bit where like anyways, that's going aside from the fact, but don't just assume you're at the home location, because if you get to the location and it's not a house, then you've kind of put yourself in a bad predicament. So another thing you want to ask is, are there any specific instructions that you need to know when you arrive? Again, phrase these how you would, how you talk. Don't just listen to me be like, oh, he said this. And what I mean by that is like, if it's a home, but if it's a gated community, you'll have separate instructions there, right? Is there security? Is there a gate code? If you're at an apartment location, right? Do you need the gate code? Are you gonna punch it in? Does the gate just open? Is it gonna call the customer and they're gonna buzz you in? Do you need to? I don't know what the case might be, but ask: are there any specific instructions once we get to the location, right? And this is really gonna apply even if it's a home location, because if they have kids, like, hey, yeah, if you mind, please don't ring the doorbell, or please don't call me because they're gonna be asleep. So it does help to. This is kind of going both ways, like whether it's off location or home, but it does help to just ask, are there any specific instructions, right? Hey, don't ring the doorbell because the dogs. Hey, when you get here, here's the gate code to get in. So those are things that you need to know before you actually get there. That way you don't get there at an apartment location and you're like, oh, hey, I need the gate code. And you call the customer and the customer's like sleeping, or, whatever the case may be. Like, it's happened times where like I didn't get the gate code. I'm calling the customer, I'm texting the customer, and they're not responding. And then I wait like 10 to 15 minutes and they're like, oh, hey, sorry, I was asleep. And I'm just there waiting for the gate code when I could have just easily got it, gone inside, got to the vehicle, and started working. And like with apartments, like a lot of times you can get in there when like another vehicle goes by, so that's another thing. But that's like usually by happen chance, like you just hope that it's gonna happen. So ask, are there any specific instructions once you get there? Because it's very vital for you to know beforehand. So is it possible to detail at a not home location? Of course, I've done it plenty of times. If you have a generator, you can basically go anywhere. Not a big deal. You have power. If you don't have a generator, yeah, that's when things get kind of tricky. It's a lot more limiting, but it is possible. It's just the chances of you getting it done or things going in your favor are less likely than you assume, because like the times that I've gone to apartments without a generator, I somehow was able to manage to find an outlet nearby to hook up to run all the tools that I needed. Sometimes it was like really pushing the limits in terms of the length of the cord and how much like wiggle room I had. Other times I was able to park right next to the customer's units and just use their own outlet. So the times I've done it, I have been able to get away with it. There's other apartments that like have outlets on the perimeter of the parking lot, and you're able to hook up there, and that makes it super easy. If they have a parking garage, not like a building, I mean like an individual parking unit, parking garage unit for that vehicle, there's going to be outlets in there. Now, again, there's been plenty of times also that I go to an apartment and the outlet doesn't work, right? Like there's an outlet, across the perimeter, but none of them work, or the outlet in the garage unit doesn't work. So then again, like you just find yourself in that predicament of like, ooh, like what do I do now? Like you ask for another outlet at the adjacent garage unit. Do you drive around and see if there's any outlet that works? It gets a lot more cumbersome if you don't have your own generator. I've been through it many, many, many times. It's not ideal. It extends the detail that much longer. It's really a headache because you just really want to get there and work, and you're here like, trying to see like where's an outlet that I can hook up to. So I've done it. It's gone bad. It's gone well. It's just one of those things you have to keep in mind. So, but if it is an apartment, right? If you are going to an apartment, here's some things that you need to know. There's no specific order. These aren't like the exact things, but these are just some general things that you should kind of keep in mind in the back of your head if it is an apartment. Okay, so is there a gate code? As I mentioned before, like there has to, 9 out of 10 times there's going to be a gate code. So just ask, hey, what's the gate code? Will the gate open, or do you once you punch the gate code, does the gate open, or is the customer going to buzz you in? Again, these aren't questions that you have to ask the customer. It's just let these kind of run through your mind when you're getting to the apartment. So you're just not going in there like just hoping to see what happens. Is there enough space on the customer's floor? So let's say they're in a parking garage, right? And they're like, yeah, I'm on the 4th floor. Is there enough light and space for you to work comfortably? If not, can you take it all the way to the very top floor where there's hopefully no ceiling and you have all the sun in? And usually, like for us, like 9 out of 10 times, the top floor is always the emptiest. There's no ceiling, so you have perfect lighting. So if they're on the 4th floor, is there enough room? Is there enough lighting? If not, can we take it to the top floor? I, by default, will always say, hey, can we just take it to the top floor? That's where we have the most room, and it's less of a hassle for other people because we're not running the generator. It's not echoing through the garage. So I always, by default, try to move it up to the top floor if possible. Sometimes the top floor is just as packed. Sometimes there is no like top floor with no ceiling, so it's still like you're still having a problem with the lighting. So if that's the case, you might have to take it outside. Maybe like there's a section of parking inside the complex, or you might have to take it outside the apartment, maybe on an alley or a street or somewhere in the vicinity of the apartment. Because there's been times where we go to an apartment and like it's enclosed, like there's floors, but you literally cannot see outside. Like it's all just one big wall that's enclosing the garage unit. So with that one, we literally have to go outside the apartment and park on the side of the building because there was literally one, no lights, and then two, if we were to run the generator and all the machines, like it would just echo through the entire garage unit. And it would be very annoying, and we'd probably get kicked out because it would just be annoying to run all that noise in that enclosed garage. So with that one, we had to take the vehicle, which was like my vehicle, Lex's vehicle, and then the customer's vehicle on the side of it was fine. It worked out great. We weren't in anyone's way. There was no problem whatsoever. But that's just one of those things where like we got there, let's say like at 9, and we had to find the correct entrance. There was 2 entrances, but it's like in a really tight apartment complex. And but we got there at 9, but until we actually got inside the garage unit and like located the vehicle and the customer, it took about 15 minutes. So, and that was just to locate the customer. Then we talked to the customer, we looked at the vehicle, and then we had to figure out, well, where do we park this now? Like the customer was thinking we could do it in the garage unit. And that was just like, as soon as we got there, we were like, we can't do it in here. Like there's absolutely no space, no lights. And if we turn on the machines, it's going to be such a bad noise. So we had to move it somewhere else. And the customer didn't know where to move it. They're like, oh, I think we can move it over here. So like we maybe started 30 minutes after we got there because of getting into the garage, finding the vehicle, talking to the customer, and then finding a location to actually start working. It took around 35 minutes just to start. And if it's your one vehicle for the day, it sucks, but okay, let's just get started. If you have 2-3 vehicles, scheduled for that day, an apartment, like going through all that, that whole process can definitely eat into your time and push back the entire day just because it's an apartment and you're trying to figure things out. There's other times where it's like a breeze, but that like you will run into those problems if you keep on going to apartment units. It sucks, but you're mobile, so it is what it is. So can you park away from the apartments? Yeah, so that's, if you are in a parking garage, a parking lot, try your best to park away from all the apartments because one, like you don't want any complaints from the residents, right? Like especially if you have like a gas pressure washer and a loud generator, you don't want to be, just making a ruckus around everyone, right? So try to, one, you get away from the customer, so there won't be any complaints. The staff at the apartment won't be like, try to tell you anything. And two, for the most part, on the outer perimeter of the parking lot, you have way more space, way more flexibility. So as soon as we get to the apartment, like I always look around the perimeter and see where there's open parking because I want to say 10 out of 10 times there's always like free spots open around the perimeter to where like it's super easy to work there and way more convenient versus where the customer is parking because the customer wants to park closer to their unit. And, that's what everyone's trying. They're trying to park as close to the unit as they can. But around the perimeter, it's like there's a lot of open spaces and it makes things so much easier. So always look in the perimeter of the parking lot inside the apartment to see if there's more space. And then lastly here about the apartments is that the customer has to walk to their vehicle. Now, sometimes it might be a 30-second, 1-minute walk. Other times it could be 5, 7, 8 minutes for the customer just to walk to their vehicle. And this isn't assuming like it's like a huge apartment complex with like a lot of floors or that they have to walk flights of stairs to get to the vehicle. So it can take quite a bit of time for the customer to come out. So another example is, I actually have a video on this one, is that the vehicle was on the top floor of the garage. And it was easy for us to get there. It's like, hey, you get in here, you take a ride, go up here, go like 5-6 flights of floors, and the vehicle will be at the very top alone. There's no cars next to it. Super easy. But the garage, it was like 6 flights of floors, but there was no elevators, right? So the customer had to walk up 6 flights of stairs, and it's not like, it was like right next to the apartment. Like, you had to walk from the other side of the apartment complex to the parking garage, and then walk up those stairs, and that takes some time. So it's just another thing you have to account for when you're doing this, because like if we finish at 10 a.m. and we call the customer out and we send them the message like, hey, the vehicle's done, it could take 10-15 minutes for them to come up, because it just, one, whatever they're doing, right, personally, and then two is just the distance, right? So it can take some time. It sucks, but it's just something you have to account for when you're doing apartments. Okay, so next one, we're talking about an office location. So here it could be like maybe like a business center, a shopping center. It could be a business park. Any of those things. This is going to be kind of applicable. So this one, ask the customer if you have permission to be on the premises. This is very important with these types of buildings or office location, because some offices, usually office buildings, either they allow detailers and car washers to be there, but there's like a designated area for those services to take place. Like, they don't want those services to be done, right in front of the building where all the traffic is at. They want to keep it professional. They want to keep it clean. So they're like, there's a side over here, there's the back, there's a port over there, that they'll allow you to do that. Other times they won't. You'll kind of get a better sense of what buildings, areas do or don't, or ones that you want to kind of make, you want to ask like, hey, am I allowed to work in that, parking garage, right? Let's say it's like a big office building, and they're like, yeah, we'll be on the 17th floor, right? You're like, hey, do I have permission to work in that parking garage? Sometimes property management does not allow contractors, right? Contractors, detailers, whatever, car washers, to be on the premises and do the work. So with those, I'll ask the customer, hey, can you ask and verify, or can you ask and confirm, or can you ask and make sure that we're allowed to be there on the job site? And you'll get a better sense of what buildings those are. Like when I went to, it was around here. It was a BBVA building, super professional, super corporate. And I'm like, hey, like, can you confirm that I can be there in the parking garage? Because like, it's a super nice area, like, bankers and stuff. So I was like, can you just ask and confirm? And I was, and I it was literally like 20 floors of a parking. I don't know if it's 20. Is that too much? 20? I don't know, but it took me a long time to get to the top. And with that one, again, like those can get kind of confusing, because since it's too, like, there's quite a few entrances. There's like employed, there's contractors. Like you need to get a passcode, or I'm sorry, like either a gate or code, or like a pass, like a physical card to swipe. And like it can get rather confusing. And with that one, actually, is that the customer, let's say there was like 20. Is that too much? 20? It was a lot. Like it was a while for me to get up there. Let's say 20 flights of floors to get up there, right? The customer had already parked it all the way at the top of the building, right? And then she went back to work. And when I was saying, when I told her I was going to arrive at 9, she went back down to like let's say the 10th floor. And I picked her up at the 10th floor, and we drove all the way up to the top floor so she could like tell me these things. And then she just took the elevator back down and went back to work. But like that one was really weird, because it's like, I was very confused. I thought I went through the wrong entrance, and then I thought I was like locked in, because you needed a physical card to swipe on the entrance to let the thing go up. So again, like you'll fall into these like weird error, not weird, but it's just like either the customer doesn't explain it well enough, or like they just forgot to tell you something, and you're there just scratching your head of like where is this entrance that you're talking about? Like there's 2, 3, 4 different entrances. There's like 2, 3 adjacent buildings next to each other. Like they all look alike. Like I don't know which building you want me to go to. So things like that will add time. And I'm telling you, like even like with that customer that I'm telling you, there was 20 stories of in a parking garage. Is that I was there at 9. Like I still got in there. I still got into the building relatively quick. The customer still came out like right on time, but like just because it was like it was still at 9 a.m. A lot of cars were coming in because of work. There was so many floors to go through. It still took a while just to. I think by like 9:20, 9:25, I started working. And even though like again the customer was there on time, I was there on time. Like we still did everything kind of smoothly. By the nature of like how many all the employees are getting there, the stories, it still took a while for it to start. So yeah, so make sure you have permission and ask like, hey, are there any specific instructions? Because with those, things can take a lot longer depending on where they are. Number two, when it's at an office or commercial location, basically when you're going to their job, is clarify how long the service will take, and then ask like, hey, do you need the vehicle for anything? Like, let's say you're gonna get there at 9 a.m. It's gonna be let's say let's say like 4 or 5 hours. It doesn't matter. But let's say it's 4 or 5 hours, right? Let's say you'll be done by like 1 or 2 p.m., right? Just ask, hey, or let them know, like, hey, it's going to take 4 to 5 hours, so we should be done around 1 or 2 p.m. Is that okay? Do you need the vehicle for anything? Do you need the vehicle for lunch? Like, make sure that they're going to be like, no, it's okay. I don't need to go anywhere. No, it's okay. I'm going to eat lunch here. No, it's okay. Like, you're fine. Because you don't want to, like, have to rush and they're like, hey, like, I'm going on lunch break at 12 and I need my car. And then you're like, well, I'm not even like, I'm 60% done. I'm 70% done. And then like, what do you do then? And not that like the customer can't wait or can't order any food, but it's just like, you don't want to be in that situation to where this could have been avoided if you had just clarified how long it's going to take and you confirm that the customer doesn't need the vehicle. So like all those, when I go to those office buildings, like I confirm like, hey, like, do you need the vehicle for anything? It's going to be 4 or 5 hours, 4 or 6 hours, however long. Is that okay? Is that going to interrupt your day at all? Confirm on that part, because you don't want any last minute, oh, I forgot, like I need my vehicle. Oh, hey, I'm supposed to go to XYZ. Like, will you be done in 10 minutes? So those aren't fun. And then lastly on this one, it's happened a few times, but you will be, actually it's probably only happened once, but I still share it, where depending on the business park or business center that you are, not so much in a parking garage, but like, like just an open parking lot. Sometimes you will be very, very, very limited on parking. And I mean like where like you can't move the vehicle anywhere because either it's the parking lot in itself is small or it is just so crammed with vehicles that you really have nowhere to go. And depending on the service that you're doing, it can be so much of a hassle to get through it. I mean, I remember once, like it was it was a small parking lot. And I literally had one single space. Like I didn't even park my car next to the customer's vehicle because there was nowhere to park. And I couldn't even open the doors all the way. Like I literally had to move the car to the very edge of the parking spot because I was at the end of the parking spot, but there was like a lot of bushes around. I moved it to the side so I can like almost open one door all the way and did all that side on the interior. Then once I was done there, I reversed the car back inside and scooted it back to the bushes so I can get to the other side. And that was cumbersome. Like it took me way longer because I was so limited on space. It was very, very, very annoying to get that one done. But that one, I generally I could not take the car anywhere else because it was the same predicament anywhere I'd go. There was like perimeter, no parking. Like I couldn't move it anywhere else because like there was more office buildings and such. And it's just like, it was that only, granted, that's only happened once. Like that's only ever happened once, but it could happen again. I don't know. So I'm sharing with you guys. So just be mindful that there's going to be times where it just sucks to do the job. And a lot of times it's a lot of times, like some of the easiest as far as location and flexibility wise, some of the best times we've worked is at a commercial office space where like there's the one of our favorites is when we get to let's say like a commercial office or something and they take us to the back or something and like there's literally no cars, there's no people, there's like, and it's literally just a huge open lot and we're the only ones there. Like that's super ideal and fun because it's just like we're just working there. Like there's there's literally nothing else aside from us except just us. So that's really fun. But so you're gonna find both sides of the coin in terms of it sucks, it's cool, it's not. But you just need to know all of this going into apartment or office locations. as you get more customers, as you get more experience, as you kind of, get more repetitions in, you'll get a better grasp of what you need to know specifically to get the job done, right? Like, what things change if you have a van versus a, you're hauling a trailer versus, whatever the case may be. Like, those little nuanced things will kind of have an impact. That's another reason why I'm not a fan of hauling a trailer, because the apartments, like, a lot of times, like, I would think, like, dang, if we were hauling a trailer, like, this would make things 10 times worse, given how much space we already don't have, relative to the area that we're working in. But anyways, I'll end it right here. Hopefully you took something away from this. I haven't done one of these videos in a while where I'm speaking about like on the job site type stuff. So let me know if you learned anything. If you have anything you want me to cover, leave those in the comment section. You can follow me on Instagram at DetailGroove and shoot me a DM, reply to one of my stories. I don't respond to all of them, but I do my best to read all of them. If you're interested in starting your business, you can check out my ultimate guide to start your detailing business, whether it's in the YouTube description or on my website where you can check out the blog. But other than that, I'll wrap it up and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.